Hey, what's up? It's me, Awesome Allen.
And I'm Raisa, and welcome back to another amazing interview. And today we have a very, very special guest with us today. Very exciting. He is an American motivational speaker and business performance coach. Ali, who is he?
He is Mr. Jairek Robbins.
Woo! Oh my gosh, I'm excited to be here. Thank you, you too.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Jairek. We are really extremely happy to have you here, and we are going to jump right into it because on our live streams and every interview, we always started off with this one question: who are you and what do you do?
Oh my goodness. That is a big, big answer. I think the simplest way to describe who I am, I'm a man who's head over heels in love with my wife. I have a newborn child that rocks my universe and fills my heart and soul every day. If you think of what I love to do, something I'm passionate about is helping reach people at the moment they need it most with the message they need. And I would say I don't know who they are, where they are, what they need, but every day we push out good thoughts in hopes to find them at that very moment when they need it most. And business-wise, it's usually what people are referring to or asking about when they ask the question. In business, we help people in three main categories: intimate relationships, which is really important; health and fitness, which is another key to life. You can't do much without it. Their business. How do we optimize their business as well?
Okay,
wow.
Perfect.
So what made you decide to get into helping small businesses? And throughout your experience and throughout your time doing it, has there been a business that stood out to you the most?
So small business, it's because I'm a small business owner. It's how I take care of my family. It's how I feed my child. It's how I am able to donate to causes I really believe in. And so that vehicle allows me to both add tremendous value to the people that we work with as far as clients, but then to have the ability to grow our revenue, to grow our profits, to grow the impact we make both in the business and then what we do with the excess profits outside of the business. A friend of mine started a nonprofit, and my heart is in the nonprofit world. That's where I started in my business career, was working in a nonprofit, and I loved it. I loved helping people. I loved making a difference. I loved hands-on being there. The only part I didn't love was the paycheck that came with it. I'm like, oh, this isn't fair. How come that person doesn't seem to help anybody, but they make this huge paycheck, and I help people all day long and make this little tiny paycheck? And I was like, I should get paid more for helping people. Like, and so there was conflict inside of me, and I started looking through that. And a friend of mine said that he started a nonprofit, Pencils of Promise. They've built over 500 schools around the world in the last probably like 6 or 7 years. Amazing what they've done, and unbelievable organization. And with him, he said people in the nonprofit world don't understand the logical thought process of the for-profit world, and if anything, they're against it. People in the for-profit world oftentimes lack the heart of the nonprofit world, and they don't know what it understand. They don't understand what it is to really care about something more than just money. Because if you merge the two together, you get an overlap, and the overlap has the thought process, strategy, and psychology of a for-profit, but the heart of a nonprofit. And he says when you overlap them, the thing in the middle is called a for-purpose organization. And I went, just like what you guys just did. I went, whoa. I said, he is speaking my language, because I can have the heart of a nonprofit, the strategy of a for-profit, which means I can make a ridiculous amount of profit, adding a tremendous amount of value to the people we work with, and then take that profit and reinvest it in the projects and people and situations and organizations that I really believe in. And so that was something that caught my attention and brought me into what we do. And small business is the vehicle that's allowed me to do it. I didn't have the connections, or I didn't have the starting point that led me into the corporate environment to work in huge organizations. So instead, I learned really simply how to start one from scratch, how to build it up, how to scale it up, how to then multiply and do what I could with my own bare hands, as it says there.
Wow.
Very nice.
And if you're watching, make sure to like, comment, and join the conversation. Tell us what you're thinking about what Mr. Jairek Robbins is saying here. We have a few comments. James McNeil says brilliant, and Anissa says for purpose. I like that. Makes so much sense.
And Jamal is watching. So if you're here, please make sure that you say hello to us and Mr. Jairek. Mr. Jairek, I love how you said for purpose. And do you think that entrepreneurship is a merge of both? Because you're coming into the business world very humbly, trying to build your empire. So you need to understand that for you to make profit, you also need to give back. Would you say that's kind of like for purpose as well?
So the truth is, to make profit, you don't need to give back. And that's the problem of a lot of what exists in the world. Now, psychologically and emotionally, it feels better when you give back. I highly support giving back. But the God honest truth is, when you look underneath businesses, they don't have to. They're not forced to. There's no law. There's no requirement. There's no standard. There's no ethical provision that says you have to do this. And so that's part of the problem, and part of the evolution of what's going on right now around the world is that there's a lot of people who have the heart, who do care, who want to see something more than just making tons of money happen. They want to make money, but they want to make impact. They want to do something that matters. They want a legacy. They want to be remembered. And you see all these Instagram memes where, it's a little character approaching death, and it says, sorry, you can't bring your baggage with you. And then on the side, you see just piles and piles of suitcases of money and stuff. And it's true. When your physical life is over, you can't take all the stuff with you, but who you helped and the impact you made. I have a good friend. He grew up in India, and he said, one of the most profound moments of his life, one of the deepest impact moments of his life, was when he went back home for his great grandfather's funeral. And he said, my great grandfather lived in this little tiny village. He had this little piece of land. And I was like, okay, we're going to go back and see him and, do the ceremony and all this stuff. But when we arrived, there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people there. Wow. I was like, what are all these? Did they go to the wrong place? Like, how could they know my grandfather? Like, how could they know him? He's just this little guy who lives in this little place. Like, how do all these people come? And then one by one, they would stand up and kind of share their respectful story of what happened. And he said, I sat there with my heart glowing and tears running down my eyes, hearing all the beautiful ways that my great-grandfather helped all these people in one way or another. It was the neighbors who had a wedding and they ran out of water, so he piped his water from his well over to theirs just to support their guests. Wow. It was the person up the street who didn't have enough money for something, and he gave them a job to help with something so they can get their money. It was this person down the road who needed a ride somewhere, and he took them. It was just endless story after story after story of all the goodness this man did in the community. I look at small business as your opportunity to do the same. Do you have the ability to bring value to your community in a way that if you were to pass away and physically no longer be here, there would be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people showing up just to pay their respects and tell a story of how you and your business helped them when they needed you most.
Wow.
Very nice.
I think actually touching on that point, yesterday, Race and we actually dissected your TED Talk to kind of run up for this interview. I hope you guys are loving it, by the way. And in that we were saying, I was saying, how I think the worst thing in life is when you have had all these experiences, you could have helped all these people, but you decide not to share the knowledge, the power that was within you, and you don't share with anybody, and you don't really make an impact. So I love how you said that. And
yeah, and it kind of reminds of our family, where our great grandparents who passed away, their funerals, just like how you related that story, so many people from Guyana, because our background's Guyanese, went to their funeral and shared the same stories about how my great grandmother had healed them, how she took away like all these bad spirits and, helped them in so many different ways. So it is very important to understand that your legacy is not, as you say, for profit, and kind of have that interest. But moving on, as you did say, for your small businesses, you're trying to help them do the same thing. So in a time where they are stuck, what kind of creative ideas do you use to help them pivot in that certain way and really, enhance them to move up?
Sure. So to understand the framework, it's really important. I run a 3-part framework. Well, you could say it's 4. But there's 3 main parts. The first one, if you think of a little kind of evolution, a chart, a pyramid, let's say, where you're climbing up the steps through the ladders, the very first layer is kind of unconscious incompetence. It's someone who doesn't know what they don't know, and they're not even interested in knowing. They're not even interested in learning about it. They're not even interested in wanting to figure it out. I always draw a line and say, okay, we don't work with anyone below that line. Because if you're not actively seeking knowledge, if you're not actively seeking to better your business or better yourself, we would be of no interest to you. But if you're beyond that, I don't know what I don't know. And I'll tell you the truth. They always say, what you don't know can't hurt you. I'm like, that's not true in the business world. If you don't know you should pay your taxes, you're going to land up with a huge tax debt and in prison at some point because you didn't know. Like if you don't know, there's certain things you shouldn't say or shouldn't do when hiring or firing somebody. Again, you're going to land up owing a ton of money in a lawsuit to someone who sued you for using improper hiring or firing techniques. Like there are laws and there's rules, and you have to know these things. And so the what you don't know can hurt you line, you have to be above it where you're seeking the knowledge, you're seeking information. The very first stage here is learn it. And it's something I talked about in my TED Talk, and it applies to business as well. Have you sat down and clearly defined exactly what you want to achieve in life and business and health and finance relationship? And have you put together what I refer to as your personal PhD? If you were going to go to school and a PhD on a topic, you'd invest at least 4 years in undergrad, probably 2 years in the postgrad, your master's, and then another possible 4 years into your PhD type program. So 4, 8, 9, 10, at least 10 to 12 years, let's say, of true investment into mastering the topic, really understanding the topic, testing the topic, proving your theories to be true, writing your dissertation, like really, truly understanding and mastering that topic. So the first thing I would say in small business, have you put together your personal PhD in small business? Have you figured out the courses to take, the people to talk to, the classes to enroll in? I just found out you can take Harvard Business School classes online. I'm in. How do I get it? Yeah, I'm going to go take a wicked hard class like finance, business finance at Harvard Business. Why? Not because I'm trying to stress myself out. I want to know. I want to practice. Have I taken the course at other universities? Yes. Do I want to take it again? Yes. Why? Because I want to be the best at it. I want to master this topic, even though it's not my favorite topic. Matter of fact, it's my least favorite topic, which means that's why I want to double down, triple down on it. I want to take it over and over and over again until I master it, even though I hate it. And it's like, cool. And so, can you master? Can you put together that program? Can you find the best people on earth, read their book and go, oh, I'd like to take their class because I read their book. It was great. Love the class too. Can you get your PhD around business? So 12-year curriculum. As you're learning, to wait 12 years and then apply is kind of silly nowadays because you can jump right in. But you should at least do some learning before you just try. Otherwise, you're going to get some learning on the job, which tends to be some painful, expensive mistakes. One of my good friends wrote this down. He's been buying and selling businesses for over 40 years. He's my personal business mentor. He said the stupidest way to try to learn in business is by trial and error.
Oh,
wow.
I went, what? And he said, I'm going to tell you, if someone else has already screwed it up, wouldn't it be more intelligent to go read their book and learn how they screwed it up and make sure you don't have to spend the same 15 years screwing it up the same way? I mean, yeah. He's like, it's about to save you 15 years and probably millions, if not tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars of mistakes.
Yeah.
Trial and error just because you want to figure it out is actually pretty stupid in business. Like, learn from people who've done it, avoid the mistakes they've made, and get to the results they've gotten quicker because they're willing to share with you what works. And I went, ooh, genius, write it down. I wrote that down. I'm like, okay, I'm going to remember that. Trial and error is stupid. Find someone who's done it, model it, speed it up. Done. Good lesson. And that comes from 40 years of buying and selling businesses and having a portfolio of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of businesses kind of stuff. So smart guy. He knows what he's doing. Fast forward. Once you've learned it, the next layer up, which is what most people call the pinnacle of success, the tip of the pyramid up here, this is live it. This is where you are living it. You're eating, sleeping, walking, talking, moving, breathing, everything you've ever dreamed of as far as results. Your business has an unbelievable, powerful team of A players delivering world-class results to your clients. It's systematized, it's organized, it's created more free time in your life instead of less, like it usually does in the beginning. You have mountains of profit coming through that you're, redistributing the things in for-purpose world that you really believe in. You have achieved it. You are successful. You have done it. Now, if you imagine a pyramid and you hit the peak, I don't know. Are you guys familiar with Kobe Bryant?
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember when he launched the Kobe system?
No.
No.
Not that familiar.
Okay, so in the Kobe system, he had Richard Branson sitting in the audience, and he says, "You've gone to outer space. What do you do next?" Then he looked over and he said, he's got Aziz or Kevin Hart sitting there as a comedian, and he goes, "You're the funniest man on the planet. What's next?" Then he looks at the tallest basketball guy. He goes, "You're 7 feet tall. What's next?" And he goes, "You think you've Serena Williams, tennis player, you've won 12 Grand Slams. What's next?" And all of them are sitting there, the most successful people on earth. They're living it. But then all of a sudden, his graphic goes like this. And he goes, "I'm about to take you beyond success." And I went, whoa. Because everyone's trying to get to success in their own life.
But
how do I know that I am enough, I have enough, and I'm loved enough? How do I know that I'm successful? How do I know that I've done it? I've reached the pinnacle of what's available. And then you go, wait a minute, that's the peak. What's beyond the peak? If the triangle expanded in that moment, what's beyond the peak? What goes above and reopens in the whole new possibility beyond where you've ever been, beyond success? And I sat that down and I came up with a company name. I was like, High Performance Ventures. We take you beyond success. We help you get this success. And then we take you beyond it. What's beyond success? What's above it? What goes beyond there? What's that next level? And so I started watching what do the most successful people on the planet do once they've achieved everything they've ever wanted. They have the company. They have the amazing team. They delivered the results. They've made the millions or hundreds of millions or billions or tens of billions of dollars. What do they want to do? What's the true thing they want to do when they go beyond everything they've ever thought? Normally, they want to share it with somebody. Like, oh, beyond success, legacy, meaning, purpose, finding a way to do the third part of the formula, which is to give it, to share what you've learned with others to help them also achieve everything that you've achieved. And I went, oh my goodness, this makes so much sense. Learn it, live it. Beyond live it is how you get to that success. You've accomplished everything at the peak of your mountain. Give it is where when you go beyond and the pyramid expands into this new venture that opens up here to this new opening where it's like, give it, paying it forward. And I said, well, wait a second. What if people with big hearts just want to start with give it and like skip the whole having the work and create? I said, well, I grew up in a generation where people try that and it doesn't work out too well. Kind of, because their heart is in the wrong place, but they've never put in the work. They didn't do their 10 to 12 years of mastering a subject. They didn't fully apply it and get all the results they really dream of and live the life that's beyond their imagination and is truly the life they deserve and desire. And then find a way to give it. We have people who read books and then wanted to go teach. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you're lacking the real giant piece of actually getting the life that you desire and deserve, actually living everything you've ever imagined and wanted to create and experience. And what's interesting is those wise people, when we go visit our great-grandparents and we hear the stories, all the stories were people not telling us how smart they were. It was people telling us how much they cared. And the way that they showed their caringness, the way that they allowed their heart to shine through was in that level of living it. As they were out doing the process, applying the knowledge, applying the stuff, how they treated people along the way made all the difference. And that's what left the impact on what everyone remembered.
Wow.
Learn
it, live it, give it.
Wow. Sorry, we can give you applause for that one. Oh my goodness.
Wow, that was amazing. I hope you guys are loving this. This is amazing. This is personally one of my favorite interviews so far. So the next question we got for you is, what are your top 5 essential items that you use in your everyday life or business that's under $100? Not like your toothbrush and like your certain clothes, but like a unique item.
My goodness, the top 5 things. I don't know if it's under $100.
You can do a smidge over.
I don't know how much an iPad is, but I use this thing all the time. I think it's more than a smidge over $100.
Just a tiny bit.
But what I've learned to do with it is amazing. I've learned to take notes on it. I took boxes of folders that used to be my client folders, and through this little program, I think it's called Good Notes.
Evernote?
Nope, Good Notes.
Okay.
And so in Good Notes, I can literally go in and draw. And so this was me teaching on a master or disaster of relationship. And it's like, I can actually draw and write and show people stuff. So I can jump on Zoom and I can like do presentations where I can actually scribble and draw and like take people on a visual journey of all the things I'm sharing with them, which is really cool. I take all of my client notes on there. It's really amazing. So that's one of my favorite tools. I apologize, it's not under $100. Well, the pencil is.
That
counts.
The Apple Pencil that goes with the pencil is my $100 thing, but the rest of it's a little more expensive.
Or the app itself, right?
Yeah, the app itself I think was like $15 or $5. So the app, Good Notes, is one of my favorite things. The pencil, which is $100, is $99. That would qualify as one of the things. A lot of the tools we use. So a lot of the work that I do, I would say Zoom is probably one of my favorite tools. It's under $100. It's something that allows me to connect with clients from all over the world. The internet is probably one of the tools I use to connect with people around the world. And I'll tell you, with the internet, I'm so grateful for it. I wouldn't be able to do what I do and live where I live and have the life we have if it didn't exist. I would probably have to move and live in a major city to do the work we do with the clients we have. But it's allowed me to, one of my favorite meetings was a training I was doing, where I was doing a training for a huge global bank. They were in their conference room. I was on like a Zoom platform type thing. I was streaming the internet from someone's cell phone onto mine to do a live video training for them while I was sitting at a picnic table in the middle of the jungle in Costa Rica.
Wow.
And so they're like, what are those noises? I'm like, sorry, there must be a family of monkeys around here. And they're like, where are you? I picked it up and I turned the camera around and they're like, wow. And I remember someone said, why are you there and we're here? And why are we paying you? This doesn't seem right. Did you get the results? They said, we did. And I said, that's why you paid. You didn't pay me because where I am in the world. You paid me because of the results I could help you get. And they said, true. Totally worth it. We were just joking. Truth there of like, hey, wait a minute. They are hiring me to help them get a very specific result. I'm delivering on the result and they're happy with the result. But because of the internet, which most places it's $50 or under $100 a month, let's say, I can do it from a picnic table in the middle of a jungle, which is very cool.
Wow.
Is there like a favorite snack or food that you use to eat or something to juice you up before you do like these amazing interviews or something?
Or your meetings?
Yeah.
So something that would go around it, here's my phone. Something I would use, it's an app more so than a snack. There's an app called XPT, which is Extreme Performance Training. It's by Laird Hamilton and Gabby Reese. Gabby Reese is a world champion volleyball player. Laird Hamilton is a world champion surfer. And in the app, they have a little section called Breathe. Then you click the free section, and you scroll down, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's this little section that's called Midday Energizer.
Okay.
And all you do is hit go, and then it's 8 minutes long, and it takes you through a breath work journey that takes you between box breathing for calming, focus breathing for focus, breath holds to shoot off your adrenal glands and focus your mind. And so in 8 minutes, it's more effective, more powerful than a cup of coffee or a Red Bull or all these things people use to like energize their mind and body, which have a huge spike in sugar and a massive cliff that they fall off the other side and then feel exhausted. This gives you all the psychological, emotional, and brain benefits without any of the side effects, just by learning how to use your breath to do the same thing. So I would say the app is XPT, Extreme Performance Training app, and it's the midday breath.
Midday Energize. Wow, that sounds better than a snack.
Yeah.
So. You did mention that the internet has been such a blessing for you, and on your social media, you really do post these motivational contents, and you have like these comments coming in. So how has social media really helped you complete your mission? And at what point did you really notice that the message was getting out there, that like, wow, people are listening right now?
So for me, I had to adjust my mic volume. Does it still sound good?
Yeah, this is good.
Sounds good.
So for me, social media was interesting. When I first got on Twitter, do you guys use Twitter?
No. No. we know what Twitter is. Oh, sorry, we can't hear you.
You keep like fading in and out.
How about now?
Better. Yeah.
Were you guys ever on MySpace?
No.
We're too young for that.
We know what it is. We know what it is.
We know what it is.
MySpace was cool back in the day, but Twitter was like a professional place where you could go. MySpace was a bit of a mess. It was a lot of fun, a little bit of a mess. But Twitter itself, Twitter was really cool. Twitter only gave you, I think, 128 characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 120
characters. What is it?
180.
180 characters. You had to express a full thought. I was like, man, that's so short, but it's useful. And so when I first got on Twitter, when I first launched my very first little coaching practice business, I had 6 years training and experience of working with a very large organization in coaching. Then I went off to launch my own, 0 experience in business, marketing, sales, or anything like that. And I launched it. And Twitter is where I found a lot of my original traffic. And the way I did it was I loved every morning. I had a ritual of finding positive thoughts to put into my brain so that I could think and feel this positivity to kind of get myself amped up. So every morning I'd go on the internet and I'd search a theme: fear, success, achievement, contribution, making a difference, impact, growth, all these things. I'd search a theme and then I'd find a bunch of quotes. And originally what I did, I would just share my favorite 10 quotes of the morning. So I just retype them and hit send, retype them, hit send, retype them, hit send. And people liked it. They were like, oh my gosh, you have like a flow of positivity. And they're like useful. Like they're similar. They're not just random. Like they're pushing my brain to look at life in a better way. And so that was my original pattern. Swapped over to Facebook. And I tried to use it for business purposes. Like, how do I get leads? How do I convince people to work with me? Didn't work at all. Then I switched over to Instagram, and that became fun. And I was like, oh, well, I had typed up quotes. Now I can have visual quotes. This is cool. And so I started putting visual quotes up there. And I asked a different question. When I was trying to grow my business, it was all about how do I get clients from this platform? And I was very small. If you look at my numbers, I think I had, and compared to the world, it was very small. Compared to most people, it seems big, but it wasn't that big. Where I had like 20,000 people on Twitter. To me, that was like, wow, it's a lot, but it's not tens of thousands. I mean, it's not hundreds of thousands or millions. Like most people just don't care. A little small group does. And that was good enough to have a little business. And then I got an Instagram. And in the beginning, it's like 5,000, 10,000 people cared. And I noticed it was because I was focused on me instead of them. And I sat there and I said, well, wait a second. This is where the question came from. How do I help someone who needs it most at the moment they need it with the message they need? And I was like, what could people be going through? And I remember receiving a letter from someone who read my book. And they wrote me a letter. They were in the armed forces for the United States. So they were Air Force person for us. And they came back. They said, Mr. Robbins, I came back from deployment. I had horrible PTSD and psychological struggles. I had a week where I sat and every night I had my firearm in my mouth wanting to pull the trigger. Someone gave me a copy of your book. I read it and I remembered my reason of why I want to keep living. Thank you.
Wow.
How cool is that? And I said, wait a second. What if I could do the same thing with Instagram every day? And it doesn't have to be someone who's on the edge of life. It could just be someone who's struggling with a business decision, or someone who's struggling in a relationship, or someone who's struggling in a friendship. But what if I could reach them at the moment they needed it with the message they needed? What might happen? And I started creating and picking thoughts, picking quotes, picking videos that I would say, okay, if someone was struggling and they read this, would it be helpful? Yes or no? If someone was growing, but they couldn't figure out how to get to the next level, would this be helpful? Yes or no? If someone was living the life of their wildest dreams, they were living it, the peak, but they just weren't fulfilled, would this be helpful? Yes or no? And I was like, yeah. And so I started picking things that help people in the learning stage, help people in the living it stage, and help people in the beyond success stage. And then I started reading it every day. And what happened was, when I was focused on reaching them with the message they need, all of a sudden, tons of people started following and sharing and connecting with it. And I was like, wow, it makes so much sense. When I was focused on me and my business, it didn't go very far. When I was focused on them and theirs, all of a sudden it started to go much farther.
That is really touching.
And we actually have a question here. So I'm Nick. They asked, what's the app name? I think your mic probably cut out through
XPT.
there.
XPT.
XPT. Hope that you download that. People are watching. Thank you. Thank you so much. Make sure to join the conversation. Tell us how you've enjoyed, how this has been helping you so far.
Oh, there's the app.
All right.
XP. I like that logo.
Yeah, it looks pretty
nice.
sick.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ali.
No, you can go.
No, go.
All right. So the next question I have for you is, what's one intense activity that you do so actually, before I do that, on your TED Talk, you were talking about how the first intense activity you did was when you were in your mother's womb and they did a breakthrough event. And then at 3 months old, you were doing the fire walk in your dad's arm. Do you do any intense activities like these or similar today? And if so, what do you recommend to our audience?
Sure. So the purpose of those is to show people how to go beyond what you thought a limitation was. And so there's tons of ways to do this. Skydiving, shark diving. I mean, there's a marathon that goes through a safari park in South Africa.
Yes.
Now, it sounds cool in theory of like, yeah, I get to run with the animals, but like, I don't know if you're faster than a zebra. If that cheetah is hungry and the zebra and you are both running in the same direction, I think you might be lunch that day because zebra might be a little faster than you. So in theory, it sounds cool until you see all the animals running and you're like, oh, look how pretty. Oh, crap, I'm about to. You got to run faster and figure out how quickly to avoid a large animal that's looking for food. Now they're safer. They don't let the race start until all the lions are on the other side of the. But I'm just saying, if one accidentally gets through, you better run faster than everybody else. You just can't be the slowest person is the key. But there's certain things like that take you beyond possibility. One of my favorite things that just about anyone can do is two things you could do to really expand possibility. If you think of concentric circles and you think of a small circle, a medium circle, a bigger circle, small circle would be the comfort zone, things that we're comfortable with. The furthest circle would be the braking zone, where our body goes into fight or flight and we shut off all logical thought and we go into this emotional reactive mode where we're now just reacting to try to stay alive. The one in between would be called the growth zone or the learning zone. This is where you're pushing yourself beyond what's comfortable, but not far enough that you break. The question would become, if you're going to expand beyond your comfort zone, which we found is to be good in life, good in business, good in health, good in relationships, good in all these areas, you have to define what is your breaking zone and what is your comfort zone and what is the zone in between where you can learn and grow and expand beyond what you've ever done and reestablish what your comfort zone is. Because once you get comfortable in the growth zone, then your comfort zone grows. And now you have to go back out on the next layer and push out again. And so you can grow yourself through those dynamics. Where people make a mistake is they push themselves too fast, too hard through a break zone, short your whole nervous system, and they shut off and run or fight. And you don't want that. If you want to know the physiological measurement of how to know if you've been triggered into fight or flight, and I'll tell you this in a side topic, in an intimate relationship, if you're sitting down and having a disagreement and your heart rate goes up over 95 or 100 beats per minute without moving, without like jumping up or jumping jacks or running, you just sat there and your heart rate shoots up, you're something that researchers called flooded. And what it does is it puts your body in fight or flight. It cuts off access to your prefrontal cortex, which is the executive decision-making and logical part of your brain, which means you're no longer able to psychologically comprehend what the other person is saying in that moment.
Sorry,
okay. So your mic kind of cut off, but I think you were saying is that when that circuit cuts off, you psychologically cannot understand what the other person is saying. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And so what's happening is the key to that is when your heart rate jumps over 95 or 100 beats per minute.
Have you ever reached your breaking point, or have you ever experienced that breaking zone?
Tons. And so what you want to do, I've done it tons of times. My body's shut down and I'm like, I can't do this. Not going to do it. When I was a little kid, as an adult, tons of times. And so what you want to do is figure out how far can you go outside of your comfort zone, watch your heart rate, and go, how far can I go before my nervous system goes, no more, and freaks out? How far can I go? What does that look like? And if each day you go a little farther, you'll know when you get to the breaking zone, because your body will shut down and you'll be like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
No.
But before that, you got to get in this zone where you go, I can go this far. This is my comfort zone. This is comfort, and this is growth, and this is breaking. A great person to look into is a guy named Wim Hof. He does this with breath work and cold exposure. So he has people take ice baths where you get into a bucket of ice and breathe. And if you've ever played sports, this is called a whirlpool ice bath. It's what you do when you're done playing sports so that the swelling of your muscles can go down so that you can work on healing a broken or sprained or hurt part of your body in sports. Very normal and natural. But for most people, we do not get into buckets of ice. And so it's a bit of a shock to the nervous system. Other way to do it, take a 3-minute ice cold shower every morning moving forward. And what you'll notice, it's the place where your brain is about to lie to you more than anything else. Because you're going to get in, and about 17 or 10 or 7 seconds in, your brain's going to go, that's definitely 3 minutes. Let's go. It's 17 seconds, brain. We've got 2.5 more minutes to go. Chill out. No pun intended. But what you need to do in that moment is learn how to breathe. And you can breathe your way through the discomfort. And when you can breathe your way through the discomfort, you can do something called down-regulate your heart rate, your blood pressure, your brain that's like, run, run, run. You can breathe your way back down to calm and be in a moment of total discomfort, yet totally calm, centered, and actually comfortable. And it's really weird. And then you get all the psychological and emotional benefits. Your adrenal glands fire. Your body enters all the benefits of fight or flight without the negative consequences, which is really cool. So your adrenals fire, your eyes focus, your muscles tighten, your body breaks down sugar and digestion better. All these heightened awareness factors or superhuman version of yourself activate without the negative stress consequences. It's positive stress, but not negative stress. It's very cool. But if you go Wim Hof and watch the Vice interview about this guy, it's very cool because he shows you the actual emotional, chemical, and psychological benefits of doing this every day.
Wow.
Very nice.
And that actually kind of reminded me what you're saying about how your brain will trick you saying, it's only 17 seconds, right? You still got more to go. That's something Rach and I do Muay Thai, so a form of martial arts called the Art of 8 Limbs. So in that, we have like our coach, right? And there's something called 30-second burnouts. And when you don't have that level of cardio to go completely fast for 30 seconds, right? Your brain shuts off at like 10 seconds, and then they keep pushing you to 20, then 30 completely. And I remember this one time I finished like 5 rounds of pad work and stuff, and it was like I had to do these last 30-second burnouts. And after that, I collapsed to the ground after I did that. And my coach was behind me, like beating the back to get me going faster and stuff. And it just collapsed. And he yelled at me. He's like, get up. If you're in the ring, right? And there's a tie and there's a draw. Do you either want to be the person who's huffing and puffing who've collapsed to the ground, or are you going to be the person to raise your hand up and feel on the inside that I've won, and you're raising your hands? The judge is going to pick the person who still has that energy inside of them. So I really loved what you said there.
Exactly. I think you brought up a really great point where you're talking about sports and how your brain lies to you in that moment, especially because we're not used to those cold showers. So it's always like, yeah, you can't do this. We're going to trick you. And then the more you keep pushing yourself, and as you said, Wim Hof, am I saying his name right? Wim Hof, when he's telling you to like have that focused breathing and to put yourself in that state, then your brain is like, you're pushing down that ego kind of and really listening to yourself that, yeah, you can push past all those limitations and go to those new heights of possibilities.
Yeah, and also on that, there is I remember watching a documentary with the U.S. Navy SEALs, and when the first cadets and stuff they came into training, they said that they realized when you're pushing through, because they have really intense training, and when they're pushing through and they're doing all these stuff, what they realized is that when you want to give up, you've only exceeded 40% of what you're actually able to do. And this is where your brain's like, all right, I've had enough, but you've only done 40% of your actual potential. So I really love that. Next question, which is, what is your favorite song to sing?
Oh my goodness. My favorite song to sing, I don't know. But my favorite song, I like movie soundtracks. If I go to my playlist, top 25 most played songs, I'll give you my top 3.
All right.
Number 1 is Crystallized by Lindsey Sterling. Number 2 is Bumblebee by Steve Jablonski. Number 3 is No Sacrifice, No Victory by Steve Jablonski. And number 4 is the song my wife and she walked down the aisle to, is How Long Will I Love You by Ellie Goulding.
Aww. That is so cute.
Those are my top 4 songs. I guess the only one we would sing is the How Long Do I Love You one. The other ones kind of it's more just instrumental.
So what advice would you tell so if you were to meet your younger self, what advice would you tell yourself and why?
I've thought about this before. And something that took me a while to figure out, and it was really important because it's a foundational piece of life, is the concept of what it means to know that I am enough, I have enough, and I'm loved enough. And understanding those 3 concepts is something, if I were to go back, I would give myself the opportunity to learn about those things much earlier. And I would ask, what does it really mean to have enough in life? What does it really mean to be enough in life? And what does it really mean to be loved enough in life? And how do you define the evidence or proof that this is what it takes for me to feel that I'm full in all 3 of those buckets? And so if I had a chance to talk to my younger self, I would slip a little notice that says, hey, figure out what it takes to be able to say, I am enough, I have enough, I'm loved enough as soon as possible.
Wow. That is really good. I think a lot of people especially tend to struggle with that as well.
Especially teenagers.
Yeah, especially teenagers as well, because it gets to a point where you are like constantly questioning yourself, especially in your business or entrepreneurship, like, hey, can I really do this? Am I enough to go and take this on, right? Am I enough to push past that pinnacle, as you said, to say like, hey, what's next?
Yeah, with the circle to get to that next growth state.
Yeah.
Nurse, you want to take this question?
Yes, I will take this question. So as you gave advice to yourself, what advice would you give to teenagers and to Ali and I right now going into the real world?
Same advice.
I would
take some time and write down the phrases, I am enough, I have enough, I'm loved enough, and define what those mean to you. And how do you know in your own personal life when those if you imagine them as 3 buckets, how do you know and how do you personally fill each one of those buckets each day?
Wow.
Do you have a behavioral technique? Do you have a habit or a routine that every day fills up the bucket that says, hey, I am enough? Do Do you have a routine that fills up the bucket that says, I am enough? And do you have a routine that fills up the bucket that says, I'm loved enough? And it's an inside job. It's nothing you're ever going to experience from something you do outside of yourself. It's always what's going on inside. Have you set up a routine that fills all three of those buckets? Because the goal is, if someone does not feel like they are enough, they have enough, and they're loved enough, then they spend a lot of their day trying to get the outside world to confirm that they are enough, have loved enough. And a lot of time to get outside approval for that inside job. And instead, when people feel like they are enough, they have enough, and they're loved enough, you get some of the kindest, generous, most funny, most helpful, most loving people you ever meet, because they're overflowing and they just kind of want to make other people feel this good as too.
I love how you said, like,
thank you,
especially today with Instagram and a lot of stuff, you see that if you go through a store, everything has to be perfect. You get the perfect angle, but you don't really get to see what it's really like. And the last question here is, when getting into the personal development world, did you ever feel a sense of pressure because of how big your dad is? And this was Tony Robbins, how big he was. Did you feel pressure to get into this, or did you do this because you really enjoyed it?
Sure. I get asked this question all the time. Lots of people are curious, and there's a lot of judgment I get. The most common little phrase I'll get when I post something that's meant to help somebody going through a difficult time, someone will write back, "Easy for you. We didn't all have Tony as a father." Okay.
Oh,
like,
God.
Okay. What does that have anything to do with this quote that's meant to reach someone who needs it most at the moment they need it and actually help? Like, who cares who my dad is in that moment? Like, is the quote helpful or not? If it is, use it. If it's not,
pass it on.
Hey, I don't care. Unfollow, go somewhere else. That's cool with me. I don't mind. I'm just trying to help that person who needs it. But there's a friction that comes where people have a judgment of how life must have been. The truth is, no matter where you grow up, no matter who you grow up with, no matter who's your parents or who's your siblings or who's in your family lineage or tree, there's things that go extraordinarily well, and there's things that are unbelievable difficult. And so we had our celebrations and flourishing moments together as I kind of grew through this environment and through this industry. And oh man, we had our headbutts and disagreement time as well. And it's just finding your space. It's finding what is okay, what is not okay. Now, luckily, I got to learn some of the not okay things by getting in an argument with my dad instead of getting sued by another company. I qualify that as helpful. Like, that's a good thing. If I would have been in another industry and not related to the other person, they probably would have sued the hell out of me. And it's like, that's a good thing. I got to learn it through some rough conversations, but not getting sued until I was out of business kind of stuff. So those things were helpful being in the same industry. Was there pressure there? Not necessarily, because I don't know any different. I don't know what it's like well, actually I do. My wife and I have started other companies and other industries and other types of businesses, whether it was a t-shirt shop, whether it was a graphic design company, a consultancy, health and physical apparatus that helps people with their posture. Like, we have other businesses and they've all done really well. My wife got her t-shirt business up to $30,000 a month within a couple months. She got her posture business on Amazon up to $100 and something thousand a month within 3 months. Like, we have other businesses that have done very well. And is there a difference? Not really. I didn't feel any pressure in our t-shirt business that it had to succeed. And the truth is, I don't feel a whole lot of pressure in our personal development business that something has to be different. Now, where there was self-imposed pressure was when my brain would try to compare. So, I'm going to do an event in New York City. And I'd go to my event and there'd be like 50 people there. And then I'd go to Dad's event and there'd be like 15,000 people there. But here's the truth. He will always have been doing this for like 27 years more than I have. So he will always have that lead because he's been doing it longer than I have. And so time is not always the difference, but a lot of the things we do, the only reason one might be bigger than the other is due to time. Time, repetition, mastery. Have I really put in the effort to master it? Have I really put in the time to actually get there? And have I really done it enough times that I've learned how, have I done the repetition? Have I done the work? And if you're willing to do the work, you're willing to be repetitive about it, and you're willing to really master the topic, you can make anything happen. And so, you know, last year was the first time I got to speak to a crowd of 15,000 people.
Oh, congrats.
Like, oh, 15,000 people, a whole stadium in Germany. It was a lot of fun. And I was like, that was cool. And in my heart of hearts is my drive to try to go do that again and again and again. Like, nah, that's my dad's place. I actually get excited for him to do it because it lights his soul on fire. I like intimate environments. You know, we hold our mastermind online. I also like independent location environments where I don't have to be somewhere in the world.
You got the Zoom.
So I'm like, nah, I'd rather teach mine via Zoom. He's like, no way. I don't want to teach anything via Zoom. I want it live. And so this is where, as we grew, it's like, there's differences. He would rather do it live. I would rather do it digital. Perfect. We have our own space to dance in. And it's like, that's cool. Over time, we grew and found, oh, these are the places he likes to do it. These are the places I like to do it. And luckily, they happen to be different. I think it might be interesting if we both tried to compete head to head in the exact same way. That would certainly get interesting. But luckily, we found our own topics, and we found our own spaces, and we found our own, you know, way of delivering, where it's kind of like, it's nice. He has his way, I have mine.
Wow.
So,
well, thank you.
This was an amazing interview.
Yes, this is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, because we understand that you do get those questions a lot. And I think throughout this interview, you really broke down a lot of misconceptions in business, as like for a lot of topics. Like, there have been different perceptions that we have heard throughout our short little time in business. And to hear it from a different perspective and also a different concept has really opened our eyes, and to our audience as well, to keep providing that kind of content. So we just want to thank you for sharing your stories with us, and your apps and your playlist. That is so cute. I love it, with you and your wife. Oh my gosh. I
think this is a great way. One last question. Sorry, Reese.
Go ahead. This is our question man here.
This is the last question. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. For our audience and for us personally, what are your top 3 must-read books that have impacted you the most, or for business-wise? Top 3.
I've read hundreds of books, and I love to read books. For your audience and where they're at, I'd recommend, let's do 3 different categories. For intimate relationship, I would recommend them to listen to 2 books, In Sync with the Opposite Sex and The Amazing Development of Men. I think both are really useful. For personal evolution, I'd recommend reading The Alchemist.
That's a good book.
And for business, I'd recommend them reading The Road Less Stupid.
The Road Less Stupid. Hear that one, guys? That's
The Road Less Stupid.
Okay, perfect. Thank
you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jairek. Thank you to our audience who has joined us today. If you love this, please share it. And Mr. Jairek, thank you so much for joining us once again. This was presented by APSO.
Awesome people.
Shaping our world.
Remember, you are awesome.
And you can make the world a better place.
Bye.